So, a pleasant morning to everyone. I'm Marquez of Anain. So, our effort is all about Russian formalism. So, my topic today is The Dominant by the Roman Jacobson. So, for instance, when you hear or see word dominated or dominant, what comes in your mind? Well, for me, it is most important, powerful and influential. For example, when you rule something, you should be powerful enough. For example, in your work, you're a boss. You rule all the rules inside the company. You should take responsibility to everyone. So, let's talk about Ramon Jacobson notion, which is the dominant. So in the notion, he focused on the verse of changes. As simple as that. As I read to his notion, there are some changes in verse. All of the techniques and form of verse is changed. There was added new form and techniques. That's why he wrote the statement or article to inform us what we saw changes in different aspects. So, Romanticism started at 1978 and ended in 1900s. So, in a very familiar story, Romanticism began in 1978 and ended in 1900. When it was replaced by Modernism, although maybe it wasn't replaced until 1901, it is must have taken a while back then in those days before cellular phones and emails. For example, to get the memo as the way today, so how long did it really take for everyone? So that they were to stop making romanticism work and start making a modernist one. Well, I think it is the part of changing of the environment that until now is continuing. So, so this is the question that begins to our mind that why it has happened. So number one, what happened to era? So number two, what are they? Number three, surely they exist, modernism happened. And number four, if they exist, they must have beginning, right? So modernism surely began some point. So they have endings when modernism started. What? Because of romanticism. So what we are mean when we call an era when we say that romanticism lasted from 1978 until 1900 and modernism from 1900 until 1945. In the postmodernism from 1945 until the present or 2000 and 2001 or whatever. What do we mean? So it will be helpful in invoke Roman Jacobson notion of the dominant, an idea he provoked from his friend and colleague by Yuri Tenyanov as he wrote in 1953. So the dominant is the most crucial, elaborated and productive concept of Russian formalist theory. The dominant may be defined as the focusing component of the work of art. It rules, determining, and component. It is the dominant which guarantees the integrity of the structure. So Jacobson illustrate this concept with an example from poetry. And the Aztecs asked what precisely distinguishes 14th century Zizek poetry from 19th century Zizek verse. So, in Zizek poetry of the 14th century, the alliance mark of verse was not the symbolic scheme, but rhyme, since they existed poem with an equal number of syllables per line, which is the term measurement verse, which nevertheless the conceived as verse, whereas unrhymed verse were not tolerated during that period. So can you see our form poems have rhyme in per verse. There have numbering of syllables which is have 7 in one verse. Also have 10 and etc. Also in our time there has free writing poems, which is you write something you want with no rules and limitation. So what Jacobson did in the article, the dominance gives a message. Does not everything last? Everything is different and changeable. But does that not mean that is that not exist? It can only be improved and improved. But even so, we continue to remember the past, look and form the things that we have changed. Since the form all began, it is just show that our world today is constantly changes. And it also fast mean that we can most adapt and while so that we do not fall behind in fashion and changes. So that's our report. So I hope you learned to my report. And then thank you for listening.